I'm AC Brown, and you're listening to Is My Aura on Straight, a podcast designed to help you start living from your core instead of your conditioning. Each week, we'll discuss topics ranging from human design, astrology, metaphysics, spiritual self-development, and everything in between. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is My Aura on Straight. I am your host, AC Brown. I am your spiritual doula, intuitive strategist, psychic channel, and human design expert, and I'm also an entrepreneur. And I help people discover, nurture, and amplify their auras through spiritual self-development and human design. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Is My Aura on Straight. I'm so happy to be back. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without some podcasts to listen to. I'm so happy to be back. I needed to take a little bit of a break and rest my voice, rest my mind, rest my spirit, a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm back, and I'm back with a vengeance with some great podcast episodes and some new things coming along on this podcast channel. Is My Aura on Straight atmosphere. So I want to thank you guys so much for your patience and for rocking with me for so long. As I always talk about before, this is my third podcast, and I appreciate the love that I get from everybody who's always writing me and DMing me and letting me know how much they appreciate my podcast. And I just got a review, someone saying that they are loving the branching out of other things that I'm doing with the spiritual self-development and astrology and metaphysics. And that makes me feel good because I'm going to give you more of that. So today we are talking about manifesting by design. I manifest by design a little bit differently. I have like a whole manifestation circle that I just launched. I'm going to be doing them more frequently. The link will be in the bio if you want to join for next month. But I manifest, there's so many pieces to the puzzle. So I'm just going to talk about the basics of manifesting by design through your human design, not necessarily specific aura stuff, but just chart stuff that I've discovered that is really important. So just sit tight and listen. So what we're going to be going over, I'm going to be talking about manifesting in human design and how your throat center is very important. That's just the cornerstone really of the way I manifest. There's so many other things and tools and tips and tricks that I use to help people manifest with their design, do some other astrology aspects as well, and some other metaphysical techniques. But we're going to just talk about the basics. So manifesting by design, manifestation is done in human design through the throat center. And the throat center also assists with your body's metabolism, as you know, because your throat, that's where your thyroid is. It's your self-expression. It's so many things. The throat center is extremely complex. And that's because for several reasons. But the throat center enables action. And the throat center also has 11 gates connected to it. That is a lot of gates. So when you don't have any gates connected to it, there's so many things that could go on with you trying to manifest things or make things happen in your life, regardless of your aura type. And when you have certain things that can affect you when it's open throat or defined throat, and we'll talk about that. But your throat center is where manifestation happens. So manifesting by design, people who have defined throats are manifesting generators, manifestors. Of course, projectors can have them. I call them projector unicorns. And you can be a generator as well with a defined throat and not be a manifesting generator. So that is a very rare combination, but it does happen where I've seen generators pure generators who have defined throats, and they are they're not manifesting generators. Um, it's very rare, but I've seen it. I have seen it. And so what makes your throat defined is where you have motors that are connected to the throat. So the motors are your will center, solar plex, sacral center, and your root center. And your motors are power centers. So that's what makes your throat defined. So when you're following your strategy, it's important for correct timing to use your voice. So correct ways of using your voice or your defined throat center or undefined throat center is really important to follow your strategy. So that's why projectors usually have the hardest time when it comes to using their throat center and manifesting at times and unless they have a defined throat. There's some caveats there, but if you don't have a defined throat, it can be a little bit challenging because the correct way to use your throat energy, it is very powerful. When you use your throat energy incorrectly, you can get health issues. So when you have a defined throat, and we're going to talk about the defined throat. So anyone who has a defined throat, the only people who won't have a defined throat is a reflector. They have no definition in their chart at all. And they just have a bunch of hanging gates, which is totally fine. So when you have a defined throat, your defined throat is a fixed way of communicating. And what that means is that you are easily heard. So my projector unicorns, like Cardi B is a projector unicorn, Serena Williams, they're projector unicorns. So like a normal projector who doesn't have a defined throat center, they do have to really, it's best for them to wait for some type of recognition, wait for some type of invitation. Defined throats will be heard a little bit more. It might be annoying to some people, but they'll be heard more. So I use the Cardi B example because she talks a lot. She uses her platform on her page to talk a lot. And people say, well, how does that work for her? Because she's a projector. She's still waiting for the invitation. Correct. But invitations, we look at them so like abstract sometimes. And so literally sometimes. And invitations can be someone liking your page. That is an invitation. They liked her Instagram or they chose to follow her. So that is an invitation for her to do whatever she pleases on her Instagram. So she uses her defined throat as a way of communicating, as a way of getting her point across. So she's making statements all the time. She's easily heard. When you have a defined throat, regardless of what your aura type is, you're going to be very easily heard. If you don't follow your strategy, sometimes you can act too fast or talk too much, and that becomes a little bit intrusive or annoying to people, or they don't particularly care for it, or it penetrates them in a way that is uncomfortable. But I tell people, don't worry about that, especially in areas such as social media when you have a defined throat. So defined throats, manifestors, of course. Manifestors, I like to say when a manifestor has a defined throat, they can initiate action, they can initiate speaking. That is where their lane is, because they are the initiators, they are the doers in this whole realm of human design. Manifesting generators, they can initiate speaking. They can start that off. The same thing with generators and projectors. They can speak after their strategy, but there's always some different caveats. So with generators and projectors, even though projectors are waiting for an invitation or waiting to be recognized, generators are waiting for a sign. So it's sort of similar in a way. And so eye contact is an invitation. Eye contact is recognition. Eye contact is a sign. So we miss out on those little things when you're a projector or a generator and you're like, oh, well, they didn't invite me. But if they looked you dead in your eye, that's an invitation. That can be someone's, then you can go ahead and say hello to them or initiate a conversation through eye contact or something like that. So and then reflectors, of course, they don't have any definition. So next, when you have an undefined throat, I have an undefined throat. So for me, I can speak here on my podcast and speak freely and all of that because you are inviting me into your podcast realm by clicking subscribe, by, clicking, liking this and, sharing it or whatever. So you're choosing to listen to what I have to say. You're choosing to follow me on my Instagram, all of that stuff. You're choosing all of those things. Those are invitations. So as an undefined throat, there is an unlimited capacity to communicate. So open throats, and I'll talk about that because I'm going to do some more celebrity chart readings. This is totally sidebar, but because I've been studying a lot of wealthy people, their human design charts, and a lot of thought leaders, a lot of successful people just in my personal realm, and looking at their charts and the different things that they have. Some of the things are kind of interesting that people do have and they don't have. And we'll get into that in a second, but undefined throats have an unlimited capacity to communicate. And so that's why having an open throat is extremely important to follow your strategy, because what can happen is that your throat can literally burn you out. And your throat is also associated, and different parts of your body are associated with different astrological aspects. And for me, my throat, like you've probably heard me say, is very important. It is extremely vital to the success and my purpose, because not only do I have an open throat, but my moon sign is Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by the throat. So there's a lot going on with me and my throat having an open throat. Now, when you have an open throats make phenomenal speakers, singers, and linguists, people who talk about language. People who have open throats do have very commanding voices. Oprah Winfrey has an open throat. Oprah Winfrey is a generator. So when her open throat, she really has to follow her strategy. But once you follow your strategy with an open throat, it's game on. It's like green light, go. And that's why it's very important for open throats to preserve their speaking capabilities, to preserve that, because once we are given permission to do that, it's just game on. So open throats must be recognized or asked before they speak. And when it comes to manifesting, I'll get into that, why that's important and how that works. Now, when you have an open throat or an undefined throat, you will have throat problems if you're not using your voice correctly. You can have thyroid issues regardless of your aura type, when you're not using your voice correctly, and your voice spiritually, when you're not using it correctly. A lot of open throats or undefined throats have a little bit of raspiness to their voice. But that takes time to learn and incorporate patience. Like for me, I had to take a little break so I can preserve my voice. So I can preserve that. I mean, I'm not a singer or anything like that. I wish I was, but I'm not that. So that's where the open throat needs to take a break, needs to rest. And open throats need to be able to identify that properly, but it's hard for them to do that. So when it comes to manifesting with your throat center, it is extremely important for defined throats to use their voice to call in things. It's important for defined throats, anybody who has a defined throat, and I've used this technique with so many people, so many clients, and I tell them this all the time. If you have a defined throat and you are having blocks, and here's just a little tip that I use with clients. If you're having blocks manifesting for yourself, the easiest thing for you to do is to manifest for someone else. This is especially important for manifesting generators, because manifesting generators, they come to me after reading or through coaching. They have really hard times. Sometimes they struggle with manifesting, and they have these blocks that they have to get by when they manifest. So I tell manifesting generators especially, but anybody who has a defined throat, if you have trouble manifesting things for yourself, spend a week or two manifesting things for other people. I've had people DM me, write back to me after I've told them this, and they're like, oh my gosh, AC, what's happening? I'm able to, like, things are showing up for these people that I'm manifesting for in 24 hours, in 12 hours, in a week's time. And I said, yes. So that, because with defined throat, you really have to see it to believe it. And so that is the best way to see it, to believe it, is to do it for someone else. So that's my tip for manifesting generators with defined throat, for manifestors, for projector unicorns, anybody who has a defined throat. Manifest for someone else for a week or two. Pick one or two of your friends, manifest for them. Literally ask them, what do you want? And, try and get them to be specific, and then take 10 to 15 minutes a day, or even 5 to 10 minutes, and visualize what they want. Say it out loud. Speak it in your voice. Say it, wherever you are, in a closed room, and manifest for them, and really intentionally manifest for them. Visualize them getting what they want. Visualize them doing, being extremely happy, all of that. And then when they come back to you and you see, like, wow, look how fast that was when I focused my attention on that particular thing for that person. Because what happens with defined throats, and I see this all the time, defined throats usually get tripped up because they're not clear with what they want to manifest, or it's too, they're thinking too big, the big picture, instead of them, and this depends on some other astrological factors, that's too heavy for me to go in, where certain astrological factors in your natal chart also block you from manifesting in a certain way. However, the basics of this is defined throats usually will they need to see it. They need to see someone else doing it. And the manifesting generators and defined throats that manifest easily, they know that they have that power. They're like, yeah, I have to actually watch what I say because it'll happen. So I've had clients who are like, yeah, oh no, I know my power of my voice. I have to watch what I say because things will happen to people, or they'll happen to myself. So that's why I always say, manifesting generators, manifest for someone else. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's the easiest way to move past your blocks, so you don't get all jumbled up with what you want. And then when you start manifesting for yourself and you start visualizing for yourself, you need to be really clear on what you want, because that's how powerful you are. Now, I'm not saying that undefined throats are not powerful at all. I'm going to tell undefined throats the best way to manifest for themselves. And so for undefined throats, because the throat center is, it's not defined, meaning that an undefined throat center will need someone else, will need another party to fulfill that manifestation. So it's going to be an invitation. It's going to be a recognition, or, it's going to be a sign, something like that. So the best thing for undefined throats is you need I like to say a focus point. You need to have something to focus on. You need to focus your intention somewhere. And what that means is that you need to literally have some type of external thing that you can focus on, that you write, whether you write down what you want to manifest. And for me, I have rituals that I do for myself. They are involving candles. I use candles all the time. Just something that, my grandmother taught me about, just candle work, and doing that type of, whatever you want to call it, magic, hoodoo, whatever you want to call it. My family's Catholic, so, Catholic Church, that's a ritual, people. In the church, it is a ritual. Lighting candles and praying are rituals. So I do a lot of candle work, for me, but undefined throats, they need a focus point, because for manifesting for an undefined throat, you have to think of it. And one of my mentors told me this. You have to think of it as a boomerang. You take your thing that you're trying to manifest, imagine you standing at the highest peak of wherever you live, your building, your house, wherever it is, and you're standing on the top and you are trying to manifest this particular thing, this particular item, this particular person, whatever it is, and you throw that boomerang out there with your mind. And then the goal is to focus to bring it back to you. And so, with that being said, over the years, I have learned that my focus point is the most important thing as an undefined throat center. So for me, it's candles. For other people, it can be crystals, whatever it is. So when you look at that particular focus point, that it is a reminder that the universe is working in your favor. Because it's almost like for undefined throats, because it is going to be another person bringing that invitation to you, inviting you somewhere, recognizing you. A sign from the universe is going to be external with your undefined throat center. The best thing for you to do is to have a focus point to know that it's coming. So the focus point can be continual. I light candles every week for myself for the things that I desire and I want. And it's a good practice for undefined throats to release the pressure of, oh my gosh, when is it going to happen? Why is it not going to happen? Because undefined throats tend to worry a lot. No matter what their aura type is, they worry a lot about when something's going to come, how it's going to get there. And so it takes the pressure off and it releases the worry. So then you know, like, okay, as long as this candle is lit, the universe, God is working in my favor to move the things around to get me the things that I want. That's how it works for me. Or, a client of mine, they'll pick a tarot card, or they'll pick a, some type of, oracle card, or they'll manifest with a set of crystals that every time they hold their crystals, they think about the things that they want to come, and then they release that into the universe. So for open throats, that's the key thing. You need to have a focus point. The focus point is what's going to get you what you need. That's going to bring that to you, is the focus point. Now, for defined throats, it's literally about using your voice and visualizing and just making it happen. But with defined throats, you have to for both defined and undefined throats, the key to all of this, you have to believe. But mostly for defined throats, you really have to believe it for yourself, because that's why I say try it for other people first, because you're not going to be attached to it. And so when the things come, you'll be like, oh, this is interesting. They, got their thing really fast. Wow. Look at that. Maybe let me try it for myself. So that's where that's the basics of manifesting by design, is the way you use your throat. So try those things out. For my undefined throats, you can totally email me or DM me if you have any questions about that. Finding your focus point. You have to try certain things. For me, candles work. That's just my thing. I've been doing that for years. That's just how it works for me. That's just for me. And for my defined throats, manifest for someone else. Trust me on this. I get DMs all the time when I tell people, after I tell like a defined throat this, and they're like, oh my gosh, this worked. Do it for someone else for about 2 weeks. Do it for a couple of people for about 2 weeks and see how amazing that is, how your muscle is used mentally. And another thing, and I'll put this in the bio, the show notes, but my favorite book is Creative Visualization. I think everybody should get that. I think everybody should really get that book. It's by her last name is Gawain. I always call her Shataka, but it's not that. It's I forgot. It's S. Gawain, but I'll put it in the notes. Everybody should get that book. It is the best book that I have read on creative visualization and helping you get that mental space. And this is good for both defined throats and undefined throats. So That is my baseline piece of, manifesting by design. There's tons of other tips and tricks that I use, and I do that in my circle. The circle is closed for this month, but if you want to join for next month or the months after, the link will be in the show notes. But that's it for today, guys. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much for being patient. I have some really cool stuff coming up for the next, human design stuff, some spiritual self-development stuff, and then, there's going to be some interviews happening. I can't say too much about it, but it's going to be pretty freaking awesome. Some of the people who I'm going to be interviewing, I'm super excited about that. And I'm, just doing a little spin on some things. It's going to still be human design, astrology, all of that stuff, but I'm going to be talking to some, people. I'll just say people. I'm not going to say who they are, about their human design charts and their spiritual self-development. So this podcast is evolving, guys. And I have some good things coming next year with the podcast. Like, I'm just really excited. And I just want to thank everyone for listening, and tuning in. Please like the podcast. Please leave a comment or a review. Please subscribe. Please tell all your friends, because it really means a lot to me. This has just been a long time coming for me, and I'm so happy that you appreciate the knowledge that I have, that I've been studying, and all of my life experiences will all be wrapped up into this little space here on the internets. But until next time, guys, make sure you have a great day filled with good vibes and great energy. And also remember, don't let anybody fuck with you. And the reason why I say that, because someone's like, why do you say that? I say that because your energy is extremely important when you are making the decision to live your life, to the way that you want to live it, and the way that you are loving your life, and you're putting the great energy out into the world, and you're speaking positivity over yourself. People will try to come for you, because they are very unhappy with themselves and they don't know what they want in life. So when you are sure about what you want and how you want to do things, and you're actually making strides to do that, sometimes, just energies will just not want that to happen for you. And so that's why I say, don't let anybody fuck with you. It's not like I want you out here fighting in these streets, but protect your energy at all costs. Protect that light that you have that's shining from inside of you at all costs. Protect the strides that you're making at all costs. The one step that you're taking, the two steps that you're taking, the little tiny actions that you're taking to improve not only your physical self, but your mental and your spiritual self. It is to be protected at all costs, at all costs. So that's why I said, don't let anybody fuck with you. So, but thank you so much for listening, and tune in for the next podcast episode coming to you soon. And I will see you later. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Is My Aura on Straight. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at AC Brown, and also check out my website for products and services at www.acbrown.com. And until we meet again, make sure you have a great week filled with good vibes and good energy.